As magazine leader, we will learn together with Ms. Deborah TAYLOR, General Manager of the International Sustainable Leather Foundation, in our interview about sustainability and the future of the industry. Ms. TAYLOR, first of all, I would like to talk about myself and Magazine Leader Publishing. My name is Alparslan Murat Aysu. I was born in Uşak, Turkey, 1986. I am a journalist. I worked in Turkey's national press. My grandfather had a tannery in Uşak in the 1940s, and my father had leather garments workshop and the store. My father left this profession, but I did not. Wanted to use my journalism as a media in the leather industry because I had gained a network from the sector I created in my father's store during my childhood. Currently, Magazine Leather is publishing online about the global leather industry and development in Turkey. That's all I have to say for now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
That's good, thank you. I did look online, so I got a little bit of your history from the website yesterday. I took a little look around, so that was lovely.
Thanks, Ms. TAYLOR. We are truly delighted to have met you and the Sustainable Leather Foundation. Let's continue with our magazine leader team with Ms. Duygu because she will have questions she wants to ask.
Yeah, no, it's good to meet you. Shall I give you a bit of my background?
Yeah, also we want to get to know you better. If you can explain you and your also about your work and the business, and we have some special questions for you to learn. And yes, please get to know you better.
So before I set up the foundation, I managed the leather working group for 5 years. So when I took over the leather working group, there was only one protocol for the tanners. So in the time that I was with leather working group, I tried to get to know the industry better. And I spoke to a lot of brands, a lot of tanneries, a lot of product manufacturers, chemical companies all around the world. And I listened to what they said to me about what was wrong with leather working group and what they needed. And I tried very hard to move leather working group into a better position and started collaborating with other industry associations. But I could only take it so far. And it wasn't going in the right direction. So in 2020, I left Leather Working Group and I set up the Sustainable Leather Foundation to do things in a better way that would serve the needs of the leather industry, the global leather industry, in a better way, that would actually add value to the work rather than always adding additional demands to the tanners. So I'm also a council member of the Society of Leather Technologists and Chemists. I sit on there, and just recently I was admitted to the Worshipful Company of Couriers in London as a freeman. So I do a lot of speaking, both in the UK but also around the world, on sustainability for leather, because I firmly believe that leather is a sustainable material if we manufacture it well. There are lots of things that happen that can detract from its sustainability, but the raw material itself is inherently sustainable. And livestock farming also forms a part of our natural evolution and ecosystem. We need livestock farming to keep our planet healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
And there are lots of things that we need to improve on. There are lots of things that we could reduce to better. But we only do that if we work together collectively as an industry. And we don't do that if we just put ever more pressure on the tanners without supporting them to make the changes they need to make. So I come from a place where I firmly believe in empowering people to make improvements at a pace that suits them and in a way that suits their operation. We can't keep trying to force every facility into a round hole. If they're a square peg, we have to start thinking more individually about the different geographical concerns and the regional concerns that we have around the world for leather making. The foundation itself operates on what we call our AIM approach. It has to be accessible, it has to be inclusive, and it has to be modular. Everybody needs to be able to do this. There's no point in having this big boys club at the top that everybody can't benefit from. We need the guys at the top. They're the visionaries. They usually have the budget and the resources to make changes and to invest. But crucially, we have to bring that work down for the good of everybody in the industry so that we raise the level for everybody. And that's how we'll protect ourselves for the future. We also need to talk about it. So media is really important because we have to be able to talk about the good work that we're doing. And I'm already rambling on, so I'll stop there and maybe let you direct me with what you'd like me to talk about.
Also, when you're speaking, I'm just checking our questions. So I want to just check, and if you not tell already, I will going to ask. So you're going to great. And we just wondering, why is leather? Because in the sector they have got a lot of also species, but why you specialize for the leather? And also the purpose of asking this question is to raise to awareness, to encourage leather products regarding alternatives to petroleum-based vegan products. It's called also PU. So can we learn your opinion?
Yeah, of course. Leather is inherently sustainable and it doesn't draw on any non-renewable sources in order to make good leather. You can make leather using completely renewable sources and methods. Not everything that we currently use in the leather industry is renewable, but a lot can be done renewably. Petroleum-based products are problematic on a number of fronts. We are extracting a non-renewable source from the earth with huge emissions in that extraction. Once extracted and produced, it doesn't go back to the environment in a healthy way. We see microplastics in oceans. We see it turning up on the insides of babies' stomachs. We see it all over the place. We see landfills full of plastic products. We are creating an environmental disaster. At least with leather, even if the leather has been treated with a plastic coating for longevity or for an application for appearance or whatever, that product will last for decades in its intended purpose. Okay, so you can have a pair of shoes and you can keep that pair of shoes for 40 years and you can still get wear out of them, or a handbag or a leather jacket. We've proven this over and over again. The same cannot be said for a plastic alternative. It breaks on, it doesn't give you the same durability, and people won't keep it. It cracks and then you throw it away. The other problem that we have is because of the fast turnaround, particularly in fashion, We have a generation of people who have grown up just buying because they like something without considering the value or the production that's gone into making that product. And they'll wear it a couple of times and then they won't think anything of discarding it because it was cheap to buy, it was cheap to make, and it's lost its quality already. We need to slow that down. So leather, with its intrinsic value, is looked after more, is worn longer, and is a less environmental impact because of that. You know, if you take the same production impacts for your plastic product as your leather product, but your leather product lasts for 40 years and your plastic product lasts for 5 years, then the environmental impact of this production is far greater than the environmental impact of the leather alternative. So I firmly believe that leather, hands down, beats any alternative material on whatever level you want to talk about it, whether we're talking about its properties for durability, whether we're talking about its properties for comfort, whether we're talking about its properties for aging, whether we're talking about its properties for being able to go back to the earth at the end of its life, depending on the production. Hands down, we beat any plastic alternative. The only thing that we do not beat plastic alternative on is cost. But actually, if you bring the cost per wear into the equation, we beat the plastic again, because you'll wear and wear and wear that leather product. If you think about the in-use properties, we don't wash leather in a washing machine. So if we compare a leather jacket to a normal jacket, we will have better in-life impacts as well with a leather product than we would with any other material choice, because it doesn't have the washing, it doesn't have the other problems that we associate with consumption, let's say. So natural materials have served us well for centuries. Where we move to in the future is that we now have to make sure that the way that we manufacture the products from those natural materials is also sustainable. And that's what we need to do. You know, sustainability as a topic is only a problem because of the overconsumption. If you think about even 3 decades ago, we were not a consumer society in the same way that we have become today. And society has lost the connection to where their products come from. They just see that they can go into a store and buy what they want when they want. You can even apply this outside of leather. If you think about iPhones, for example, let's take Apple as an example. I don't like iPhones. And one of the principal reasons I don't like them is because you are forced updates until you get to the point where it says, your model of phone won't take this update anymore. So if you want to carry on having the best, you've got to get a new phone. Now, nobody ever thinks about the mineral extraction that goes into making the batteries for these phones and all the other non-sustainable items that go into the manufacture of these phones. But we consume them because we've been fed this kind of culture that we have to have the best of everything, and we have to have the latest thing, and we have to have the latest upgrade. It's the same with computers. You know, when we first had computers, you bought your software, you uploaded your software, and it was yours for life. You can't do that anymore. You have to subscribe to it on an annual subscription that forces you then to keep buying and keep renewing and keep upgrading. And again, you get to the same problem where after so many years, your current software, your current computer will not handle the updates. So you have to buy a new computer. And this is all geared towards keeping us as a consumer society. Leather bucks that trend. Leather doesn't fit into that mold because leather has always been synonymous with quality. And we want to retain that. We don't want to lose that. We want to retain that good feeling that we get from a nice leather product, right? From the feel of it, the smell of it, the touch of it, knowing that this is part of nature, knowing where it's come from. I don't subscribe to the need to know the farm and everything else. The consumer doesn't want to know that Daisy the cow made my pair of shoes. But the consumer wants to know that we know that and that we're looking after that and that we're taking care of how we have taken it from Daisy to become those shoes. So that's our responsibility, and that's what we need to do in industry. But there is something that is very organic about that whole process and has been right from day one. We have a responsibility to look after our animals, whether we're talking about the majority of what leather is made from in cattle raising. Consumers don't necessarily always understand that the vast majority of the material is coming as a byproduct. That's partly driven by vegan arguments that would like us not to eat meat at all. There is an argument that maybe we should reduce our consumption of meat, especially in some countries. There can be a bit of an overconsumption. But whatever species we're working with, whether it's exotics, whether it's sheep, whether it's goat, whether it's cattle and bovine, whatever it is, we have to look after the animal in life. And if we look after that animal in life, that animal will look after us in its death. I don't subscribe to these artificial manufacturers, the companies that are now saying that they can take cells from a live cow and create leather from those cells in a lab, and then the cow can live happily. Well, the reality is that cow will still die. So what are we going to do now? Are we going to use that cow and extract cells from it and use it as a commodity, then create emissions in the lab, creating the leather in the lab, and meanwhile, when the cow does die, which it will, because we all die, when that cow dies, now the skin is useless because we've made it artificially in the lab at great emissions cost. So now this real skin goes to landfill and creates more emissions in its decomposition. So we're now creating double emissions unnecessarily. We have to start being sensible about this. And there are too many people spending too much money trying to find new alternatives. And if those people instead put that money into the industry to improve the processes that we already use, it would be far better spent. That's the underpinning to everything that I do within the foundation. I want to enable industry to do the right thing in the right way so that we can answer the critics and we can say there is no comparison and there isn't another material. And that's even before I start talking about the social elements. You see, I can go on all day. I'm sorry, I do get on my soapbox about this stuff. Livelihoods depend on this industry and have done for centuries. And there are many parts of the world where if we stopped leather production right now, we would plunge them back into poverty. And that is not a solution. And for every high-tech lab you have somewhere in America or the UK even, there are thousands of people that would have no alternative employment if the leather industry were to close. I hear time and time again, oh, it's a polluting tannery, let's just shut it down. It shouldn't be down. No, let's work with the tannery, make it better so that it stops polluting, but let's maintain that livelihood and actually make it better for them. That's what we should be doing. And that's where our interest should be. We need to be smarter about what we do and the way we do it. And one of the other things at the foundation that we were passionate about from the start was connecting all of the different actors along this value chain. Because for many years, and even up till us setting up the foundation, audits were only done in tanneries, and they were only done for environmental concerns. They didn't look at social concerns. They didn't look at good governance. They didn't look at the product manufacturers. They didn't look at the slaughterhouses. They didn't look at all of those other elements that go to make a good leather product. They just looked at the tannery. And so all the blame was on the tannery, all the spotlight was on the tannery, and all these other guys aren't having to jump through the same hoops. So we were very clear that we wanted to connect the good practice together. And we also wanted to work with the product manufacturers, with the processors, the meat packers, with the slaughterhouses, and with the farmers, because that's how we connect the good practice. Now, we're not saying that we want to go in and audit farms. That's way outside of our expertise and knowledge. But they're already being audited. They already have to do lots of things to meet regulatory requirements. They have vets that have to sign off on things. The slaughterhouses are heavily regulated. So if we can pull that good practice through our dashboard, you can see the wheels here, and connect it to the tannery. So now we're extending the good practice and the traceability from those upstream actors. And then we extend it out to the product manufacturers, and we add, because the factories that make the products already have good social audits, but they don't have environmental audits or governance audits. So now let's connect it, and let's connect the good practice together. And then by the time that product manufacturer sends the goods out to the brand now has a really responsible value chain from start to finish, and can connect those dots and can say, I'm using responsible people all the way through. It sounds easy. It's not. It's really difficult, and you have to start one step at a time. When we set up the dashboards, we started with the tanners because that's what we knew. We knew the tanneries already. We then added the dashboard for the product manufacturers, and we now have half a dozen product manufacturers on the dashboard as well, and we're able to now connect those dashboards together. We then added the chemical companies last year, because you can't make good leather without good chemistry. So it's important that we connect that responsibility together. It's a new discipline for the chemical companies. They're not used to it. They're not used to being audited in the same way that a tannery is. So it's an evolving thing with them. We've been working with the machinery dashboard in the last year, so we're nearly ready to launch the machinery dashboard. And this year's development is with the meat packers. So we keep slowly evolving to include the whole of the value chain together, so that we can talk well to consumers, hopefully through media channels, so that they understand that good work is taking place. And the final thing on that is nobody's auditing the plastic manufacturers. Nobody's holding them to account and saying, okay, tell us exactly what's in your product, where it's coming from, and what your emissions are. That will change with the EU reporting, with the EU regulations that are coming into force this year. That will change, because all companies will be held to account more than they have been previously. And with the systems that we've got at Sustainable Leather Foundation, with what LWG do, we're already in good shape for being able to demonstrate good practice. It's not perfect, but we're getting there.
Ms. Deborah, so you explained well, and first we just beginning to the quality of the leather, how we gonna be hold to in the quality to the specialized things if you want to make our in the life to an sustainable, and because we need to, I just understand you're talking, we need to choose the right thing, and we need to feed after, because you can be occur any of the disaster for the life, and we don't want it. And also, when you're talking about iPhone and the other technology, I'm just thinking another kind of questions that just came my head. But yes, we are in the live, and so I want to ask about your company do the traceability activities in the leather value chain, right? It is ECB. Yeah. So can you also detail about this?
Yeah, traceability is our biggest challenge. We connect all three areas of sustainability, E, S, and G. So we look after the environmental impacts, the social impacts, good and bad, and the governance impacts. So this fits within where regulation is taking us. The EU are requiring companies from this year to report not just on financial aspects of their businesses, but also on ESG aspects of their businesses. They want to know that companies are being responsible. So our dashboard has 3 modules, one for environmental, one for social, and one for governance. And then within each of those modules, there are the individual topics of concern. Many of the environmental concerns are things that tanneries have been thinking about for years. But as I mentioned earlier, the social element is very new. So that needs a little bit of thought. We work, when I mentioned our AIM approach, we work on a modular way that makes it accessible to everybody. So you don't have to be able to do everything all at once. We have a really simple traffic light system. If it's grey, and you can see here on the wheels here, some of the grey sections, if it's grey, it means the work hasn't started yet. If it's orange, it means that the work is in progress, but it hasn't been certified yet. It hasn't had an audit and it hasn't had third-party certification yet. If it's green, it means it's been certified and audited by a third-party credible company. If it's red, it means it's failing the standard. Now, a failure is something quite distinct from a work in progress. If it's a failure, it means that a company isn't meeting its legal obligations. Whereas if it's a work in progress, it means that they're just not there yet. So they might not be meeting the standard, but they're not failing anything legally. So there is a big distinction. And we created this system in this way to take the fear away from auditing for companies, because they don't have to do it all at once. And we're not saying, well, if you can't get green for everything, you fail the audit. We're saying we pass what we can and we give you a certificate for the things that you are doing well. And then we give you advisory notes and corrective actions for the things that you're still working on or the things that you still need to start working on. So it provides a really positive improvement program for organizations. It's no longer this scary audit thing that you've got to pass and you've got to go out and get a really expensive consultant to help you pass this audit. It's about doing the work yourself. It's about understanding what's required. We do that through our tools. So we have standards and benchmarks. For every single section on every single wheel, we have a standard and benchmark that tells people what the expectation is, what they need to have in place, and what we will do when we come to audit against that. So companies can do it themselves. If they don't have something in place, we have guidance notes and we have templates. So if somebody has never done a risk assessment before, for example, we give them a template for a risk evaluation register that gives them the key areas that they should be considering. And it helps them to think, oh, okay, we can do this ourselves now. We then provide every company with a QR code. And that QR code is dynamic. So it's a living QR code. If you do something tomorrow, even if that QR code has been on a pack of leather for a year, if somebody clicks on the QR code, they will get your most up-to-date wheels. Not what happened a year ago when you put it on there, but where you are today. So we enable this constant living way of putting your best foot forward, of giving your best representation of your progress across ESG on a daily basis. When we work with our companies, they keep us in touch. So the minute they get a new certification, they just send it through to us and say, okay, we've now had our updated leather working group certificate, for example, or we've now got our updated ISO 14001 certificate. Please update our board. And we update it for them. The only thing that we need to see in order to make that happen is the report. Because without the report, we cannot make sure that there are no corrective actions or advisories that would make the difference between something being green or remaining orange work in progress. So if we're going to give equivalency of somebody else's audit, we need to see the audit report so that we can see on what basis we make that determination. All of those things combined mean that we are delivering something that works for everybody. It works for industry to help them to improve. It works for brands to help them demonstrate good practice along their supply chain. And it helps the consumers because anybody can put that QR code on their point of sale materials in a store and the consumers can understand that that's a trusted product, that they can trust in that Sustainable Leather Foundation logo because we're transparent. We're showing the current picture. We're not trying to pretend that everybody's perfect. We're not trying to pretend that everybody's all green. We're able to demonstrate where they're at any given point along their journey. And of course, the onward support is important. That's an important part of the work that we do.
Okay, thanks. Next questions. Does the association have participation in a fair organization?
Participation in fairs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We try to get to as many as possible. I had hoped to come to the fair in Turkey just a couple of months ago, but I wasn't able to make it. So I'm promising myself that that will be on the agenda for this year. But we do try to visit as many regions as we can, to do workshops, to participate in fairs, and to talk to as many people as possible. We really want to open this up. And, you know, talking about certification is really important. Certification is really important as we move forward because it enables you to meet the due diligence requests that are going to come down the line from the brands. But many people still misunderstand certification. And I think we need to talk about it, be present through the fairs, through the expos, through workshops, so that people understand that certification doesn't necessarily have to be hard and it can be trusted. I know there are problems with it. Auditing is fraught with subjectivity and problems, but it is the best thing that we have to prove due diligence right now. And what we have to do as an industry is make sure we do it well. So yes, we do like to get out to the fairs and talk to people as much as possible.
Okay, thanks. So, what would you like to say about the technology and future of the sector in which we live, the age of artificial intelligence?
Technology has a big role to play in the future of the leather industry. I do believe that. We've already shown that investment in good technology and in research and development does pay dividends. And we see that at tannery level, we see that at product level. That's where investment needs to continue. We need chemists, we need technologists, we need those guys to be thinking about how we can improve our existing processes. Even thinking about getting the best yield from a hide, you know, if you can automate that and use that, then great. What we mustn't do is we mustn't use technology at the expense of people. We do have to protect livelihoods. And my concern with AI is that we are removing the artisan from leather making. So it's this, you know, you can apply it to anything in life. The more we rely on artificial intelligence, the less we use our own intelligence. Until before long, you won't have specialists for anything. You know, everybody will be a generalist, and they won't be very good at that because they won't ever be really applying their own brain to it. So we need to be really careful about the extent to which we adopt these technologies. You know, already now we can see images online of celebrities and it's not really them. They're not really there. But AI has created this imagery, has made it look completely different to the reality. So we do have to be very careful. That said, when we're thinking about tannage technology, when we're thinking about types of tannages, this is where we really need to be leaning on the best information and science that we have at our disposal so that we can make it as good as possible and as sustainable as possible, because that's the key, sustainable.
Thanks. So next questions. Do you have academic activities for international sector employees on the subject of qualified personnel and qualified personnel?
Qualifications.
Yeah.
For qualified people. We do informal training that is designed to support improvements. We don't do any professional qualifications. No, but we do work with educational institutes and have close links with them, because we do believe in a highly qualified workforce will produce better results. But we don't do any formal qualifications.
Okay. So finally, what would you like to say to people who are devoted to the profession?
Now, this one is an interesting one because the leather industry is still seen as an old industry, and we need to encourage new people. We need to encourage young people, enthusiastic people that want to get involved and help move leather into the future. It's really challenging. You know, leather's reputation is one of a dirty old industry, and it's not very sexy. Let's just put it out there. It's not very sexy to young people. They want more, you know. I think it's our job to make it interesting and exciting for them. And there is a lot to commend the industry for. But for any young person that's thinking about leather as an industry choice, I would say do it, run with it, lead it into the future, learn from those old masters, learn from we have lots of aging experts who have so much knowledge and so much enthusiasm for this industry, and they have nobody to give that knowledge to pass it on to. So for any young person, find a mentor, find somebody that you know is a specialist in the field that you're in and reach out to them, because 99.9% of people in this industry want to show others, want to help others, and want to work with other people. And if a young person wrote me an email and said, I want to get involved, I would help them. And I think 99% of people in this industry would do the same thing. And certainly people help me. When I first started with Leather Working Group, I was completely new to the leather industry. I didn't know anything about it at all, except that I liked nice leather handbags, of course. Every tannery I went into, every educational institute I went into, every chemical company I went into, people opened their doors to me and they explained things to me. They never made me feel stupid for not knowing something. And I couldn't do the job that I'm doing now if it hadn't been for that generosity of all of those people and all of those companies at day one that showed me the ropes. And it was their showing of the ropes that ignited my passion for the industry. You know, for somebody that was relatively new to the industry, I became very passionate very quickly. And I would say 100% of that is down to the people I was working with that helped me to understand what leather was all about. So for any other young person coming into this industry, find good people to learn from, and they will want to show you, they will want you to succeed, and they will want to help you.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time to participate in this online interview for Magazinlidir Publishing. Thank you.